Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your backup host, Cesar Hernandez, and we are here to talk about El Tri. We're here to talk about the Champions League. We're here to talk about the Super Clasico, and we're here to talk about the stuff that happened over the weekend in Liga MX. And our guest host, I want to say guest host, our contributors with us today, and I call them guests, but you guys don't really feel like guests. I feel like I should just say like my friends on the show or our friends on the show. It just doesn't feel that formal to say guests. But anywho, so. Our guests tonight include Jason Marquitz. Jason Marquitz over in Philadelphia-ish. How is Philadelphia-ish doing?
It's ishy. It's good. Just coming off the back of a big Pope visit here, so there's been a lot of hubbub around here. But ready to talk some soccer. It's a crazy, got midweek stuff coming up here, so it's exciting times, and the clock's really ticking on that the big game for El Tri, so exciting times.
Did you get a chance to talk to the Pope? He didn't give you any of his soccer fan. He didn't give you any of his thoughts on Cruz Azul?
I just brought the Chaco jersey, and I had it blessed, but no big deal. Whatever.
We also have Naive Moran. I want to say you're in New York, then you were in Houston, but then I saw you put a post up that you're in Phil. Where were you in South?
No, it's putting stuff on Instagram from old pics that I didn't post when I was actually there. But right now we're in Houston, Cesar. No, we're here in Texas.
How you doing over there?
Good. And good to see Jason and talking to you as well, Cesar. Big weeks, I think, in the next. There's Liga MX football, a lot of Champions League action going on. The U17 World Cup in Chile is coming up over there in October 18th. The Olympic qualifiers are going to start rolling in the next couple of days. So there's a lot of things going on, all bunching up, and it should be a good start to the fall.
Yeah, most definitely. If I remember correctly, and I'm sure you know more about it right now, but the first game for Mexico in the Olympic qualifiers is this Friday, correct? If I remember correctly, I think it's Friday.
Yeah, it's October 1st.
Oh, it's October 1st, maybe, so it might be...
2nd, yeah, one of those two.
Yeah, well, it's starting soon, so everybody pays that, but keep aware of those things. So first off, we were talking about beforehand, but let's talk about the roster. It was announced, earlier that Tuca is going to be choosing his final roster for Mexico for the match against the United States on October 10th next month. So he has to cut down 9 players from the roster. So what I'm going to asking you guys, and I'll go over to Jason first. Jason, just looking at the current options, which names just immediately stand out to you, and that basically these names tell you that they're not going to be on the final roster, and there's no chance that we're going to see them going against the United States, not even on the bench. Like, which names pop up to you?
I mean, Oswaldo Alanis, like, I think he's one of those guys in that defense who, when we've seen him recently, it's been ugly, and I think despite the doubt over Marquez, like, he's a center back that I think. I think there's some other options there. Not really going to make the cut. I think Orozco's probably that first goalkeeper off the list as well. I'd also think, despite the Chuca connection, I don't think Jurgen Damm is going to be in this final list. I think there's just too many options there. Elias Hernandez of Leon again, and I'd also probably put Cepillo in there as well. I don't see him making the final cut with all those other options too. So those are the first ones. I think some of the other cuts get a little trickier, but those are the first ones I'm thinking out right away.
Yeah, people were definitely giving me a hard time, but I think Peralta is definitely one of those players that goes out immediately too. I mean, he's not. I think he's a little bit of a decline, and I know that he's scores semi-consistently, but I think he's been one of the more disappointing players from the national team. So I honestly I would be personally I think he should be little by little being released from the national team, and I don't think he's one of our top 4 options right now. Naive, what are your thoughts? So who stands out to you? Who do you think has no chance of going up against the United States or being on the final roster?
There's a lot of thoughts right now, especially because of the first list and the confusion as to whether Giovanni and Jonathan were actually left out because of disciplinary actions, or was it because actually Tuca believes that they're not good enough to be in his final roster. It's starting to look that it's a little bit towards the disciplinary issue, I think. And when you keep that in mind, the names like Montes, Gullit, I think those kind of stay off this list. And also, for example, Güemes is another one. But the thing is, it all depends. Also, another point that I want to make, it's the issue with Rafa and Guardado. Will they be fit for this game? You know, if they're fit, they're good enough to actually be on the bench. You know, maybe not start, but be there on the bench. It will depend. It will be a last-minute decision. But you know, the whole Gio thing, and I've been one of the people that have been writing that I actually do see Peralta before Giovanni in the list.
Really?
And the reason I say
Personally,
this,
or do you think that Tuca is going to choose him before that?
I think Tuca's gonna choose some Peralta before Giovanni, because I think there's this idea in Tuca that the Peralta Raúl Jiménez tandem is a possibility. You know, because they played in America for several seasons. And you know, when you see the options and the probabilities of who will start in the game against the U.S., you know, Carlos Vela might be bench, you know, and even Tecatito might be bench, because it could actually be Chicharito, Raúl Jiménez up top against the U.S. And then there's an overflow of players, you know, and it could be the case that Giovanni might not be a forward that might be needed in this match. And it sounds crazy what I'm saying, but all this conglomeration of things that have occurred, and each coach has his own style, that, you know, it can happen like that.
No, I don't think it is crazy. When you look at those strikers, I think there is no option that really stands up. Maybe Chicharito is the only real one for me who I think should be a starter. But other than that, it's tough. So, I mean, here's a question for you guys, and it kind of goes over to a question that somebody asked us beforehand, because I asked people if they wanted to answer any questions, and one from at Rios Jose 559, so he said, "Where's Carlos Vela? Supposedly he's Mexico's best player." And here's a question for you guys. Going on that, should Carlos Vela start? Do you guys believe that? I'll go over to Jason on this first. Do you think that Carlos Vela should start against the United States?
I wouldn't start him. If it was up to me, I wouldn't start him. He's not someone, if he did start, I would complain about it. I mean, I think that there's a strong argument that he could start, but I'd be that Chicharito-Raúl combo. I think is perfect. I think those guys complement each other perfectly. I'm a big believer in Raúl, and I think he should be out there every time for Mexico. I think he should be getting the minutes every time, so I'd like to see him playing all the time. There's a really good argument for Vela. I think this summer was scary for him. I mean, it was scary what we saw this summer with Mexico, but I don't think, I'm not really a believer in like the spells of really amazing play and the spells of kind of poor play, like affecting your status with the team. I think, if you judge him to be the best player, he should be out there. I don't think he is. I'd still stick with Chicharito and Raúl. I think that's the best combination, but Vela, you want to be right there as another option to go to for sure.
And the thing with Vela that is interesting, he's playing probably his worst football, in the last 2 years. That's straightforward. And the odd thing about all this is that when he's playing the worst football, he's being the captain. He was the captain with Tuca in the first game against Trinidad and Tobago. And now David Moyes and Real Sociedad has already had him as captain twice, 2 consecutive games. And that kind of is a symbol or kind of a way to note that he is an important player for La Real Sociedad, and also Tuca believes that he should be an important player in El Tri. It's just that the circumstances at the moment are really bad. He hasn't scored a goal in La Liga. He hasn't even given an assist. Real Sociedad probably has one of the worst offenses in La Liga at the moment. And he's just not having that flair that he had during that season when he said no to El Tri to go to the World Cup, when Pio Herrera went to Spain and all this talk happened. And if that Vela was present now, he would be an absolute starter. I think undisputed starter, I think. But he's not at his best, at his finest moment right now.
I mean, WhoScored.com even took him off his banner for La Liga. They had the La Liga banner, and he used to be included up there. It's unfortunate about Vela because when you look at it, the last time he scored for club or country was in the group stage of the Gold Cup in the 4-4 tie against Trinidad and Tobago. Since then, he's done nothing for Mexico. He's done nothing for. I mean, he was one of the arguably one of the flops. Maybe he was lucky that Hector Herrera had such an awful tournament that people didn't see him as the biggest disappointment, because maybe if Herrera was just a little bit better, people would be pointing all the fingers at Vela and saying like this was the biggest flop of the tournament. And for Real Sociedad, he like Naeem said, he has yet to score a goal, he has yet to have an assist, so it's tough. Personally, I still believe in the duo of Chicharito and Vela up top next month for Mexico, but I would not have any problems, and I would, if I was Tuca, I would probably be looking at Gio as an immediate sub for Vela, perhaps in halftime, maybe early in the second half, if Vela is struggling. So it's tough because he's arguably one of the more talented players on the team, but as I wrote earlier, he isn't playing like it recently. So that's what's tough. But looking at another position, let's talk about really quickly maybe who do you think should be the starting goalkeeper, and who do you believe will be the starting goalkeeper? And I'll go over to Jason on that. I mean, looking at the current options, who do you think should be the starting goalkeeper, and who do you think will be the starting goalkeeper?
I think the answer to both of those is Ochoa. I think it's just the obvious one. I don't really care about whether goalkeepers are playing at the moment or not. I think goalkeepers could do what goalkeepers could do, and he's the best one of the bunch. So, I mean, Ochoa should be starting. I think he will start. If for some reason he ends up not starting, I think the obvious choice behind him is actually Munoz. I mean, as strange as it is, it's I don't know. It's still odd to me to even say that and think that, but I don't know. I haven't seen a lot from. Talavera worries me sometimes in these big games. It seems like every time he comes to Mexico, he doesn't like show his Toluca form with Mexico, and that's strange because I think like he just is a great goalkeeper, but I don't know. He has those weird little hiccups sometimes, and I just have more confidence in Munoz in a big game, I think. Although I'd still take Ochoa, hands down, definitely.
And the thing with Munoz and the Clasico that just happened during the weekend, there was a clear mistake from Osvaldito with the pass to the center back, and it was totally bad. But you see the play, and you don't understand why he went out for the ball. In that kind of deal, you do that against the U.S., that's probably going to be a goal. And remember, in the 4-2 that happened in Rose Bowl, Talavera was the goalkeeper. So, I mean, these are things that you never know what's going to happen. Will Ochoa actually be in the call-up? That's another thing. And I think we're emphasizing a lot the game that Moises Munoz had against Argentina. He blocked like 5 shots that were clearly going to be goals. But then he had that hiccup at the end with, that was a goal that Agüero scored. So, I mean, I think they're not that reliable. Munoz and Talavera are not reliable. But maybe those will be either one of them will be, because maybe Ochoa's not even in the call-up.
Can we get Tonio? Can we call him up right away? Can he just pop up here and just make the surprise start? Is that possible?
It might as well steal Godinho and bring him up for the USA match. Why not? Let's see how he can do. I'm predicting that Talavera will start, but I still, you know what? I think personally I would choose Talavera as well. I think I've agreed with people who have said that whether he's playing or not, Ochoa is an excellent goalkeeper. But I still worry that he hasn't played for quite some time, and even the Gold Cup, he wasn't. I don't know. I feel like there was something slightly off. Not that he did a bad job. I thought something was slightly off about Ochoa. I think Talavera would still be my starting goalkeeper. I know Jason was saying that he looks a little off form with the national team, but I think he's one of the more consistent goalkeepers I've seen in quite some time, and I think he's had the experience with the national team, and I think Orozco is definitely he's off the list. That's for sure. I think, but what I think is going to happen is I think Ochoa is going to get called up, but he's going to be on the bench with Munoz, and I don't know, but we'll see. Who knows what happens in the goalkeeping position. Really quick, let's talk about just the midfield defense. But I think the thing that stands out the most to me in defense, we were talking about this before the show, so we could is. It seems like in every defensive spot, you have clear starter and backup position. You have Layun and Torres Nilo on the left. You have Reyes and Herrera, the right center back. You have Aguilar and Israel Jimenez in the right back position. But then there's that left center back position where you have Moreno. But then do you choose Alanis or do you choose Rivas? And I'm going to go to Naiva. Who would you choose? And once again, same thing too. And who do you think will will be chosen by Tuca
No, I
as
think
that backup.
it all depends on when you see the formations. If it's gonna be a backline of 5 defenders, a backline of 4, and by that means, well, maybe Alanis does have more experience playing in the backline of 5, and could be a good replacement to Hector Moreno, which I hope he'll stay healthy and will definitely start. Right now, I think Moreno and Reyes are playing pretty well, in the center back position in their respective clubs, and should be able to contribute that to the national team. It will all come down to what happens with with Rafa Marquez. If Rafa Marquez is not available, then the importance of a third center back does become a little bit more notorious, because I think if Marquez is not coming, then you can say, El Tri has Reyes and Moreno, but then that whole idea of the back line of 5, it will get disturbed if Rafa Marquez is not present. And because of that reason, from the start, I'd pick Alanis before Palmera Rivas, even though Palmeras has had a good seasons in Liga MX as of late.
No, I most definitely think he's had a good season. I think even after the call-up, I think he's stood out with his performances. And I guess I don't know, we can discuss this, but I assume that you guys think if Rafa is there, then we should have a backline of 5. But if Rafa can't make it, then we should stick to a backline of 4. Or do you guys think that we could still stick to a backline of 5 even if Rafa isn't there? Jason, do you think we can still do that, or do you think if Rafa isn't there, we should definitely go to a backline of 4?
I mean, the big problem for me is that, when you go to a backline of 4, like I think you have to reconsider your left back and right back as well. I mean, I think when you have a backline of 5, Aguilar and Layun makes a lot of sense, but when you backline of 4, that makes me a little bit nervous with those two at left back and right back. So that's the problem with that change. And then so we're replacing those with with backup options. So I don't know. I'm tempted. I would say against the US, I would stick with the back line of 5 and make it work in the center back position. Gaito in front of them, maybe it works. Maybe they could find a way to make work. I think that's the best option with Layun and Aguilar still out there and pushing forward with that back line of 5. I don't know. I mean, I think once you make that change to back line of 4, I'd rather have Torres Nilu in there. At left back.
But then again, Layun, he's been playing in the back line of 4 with Porto right now, and he's actually doing much better than I thought he'd be doing. So I thought when he got that start, I was like, well,
having more minutes than Herrera.
Yeah, that's when he was given the start, I was like, all right, cool, Porto, just wait until you see. I know you saw those highlights from Layun past years. Yeah, he looks great, that long shot. But no, I think he's been doing great. And it looks like he's almost gonna. Like, he should be getting an assist in every game. I think he's doing very well. But then again, we look at the right, and do we like Aguilar in that back line of 4? I mean, but then he's playing that essentially with America right now. I mean, but like Jason said, it's difficult. But I personally, I think we would be best with a back line of 4 if Rafa isn't there. And I like even Layun says, just Layun, Moreno, Reyes, and Aguilar to that back forward. I'd be pretty confident with that. But yeah, any other thoughts with the defense before we quickly go on to the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a big question in the next weeks or so, because it is that idea we've kind of elaborated already, that the back line of 5 only works with Rafa Marquez, and I think it will come a point, I think, with El Tri that idea can change. And the problem, I think, right now is that the center back that should take Rafa Marquez's spot, without a doubt already, I think it's Carlos Salcedo. If Carlos Salcedo was added into this mix, I think you could play a backline of 5 with Reyes, Moreno, and Salcedo. Because Reyes, I think, is really good with his passing game. And he's not a Rafa Marquez, because there's not going to be another Rafa Marquez ever, But it's decent. It's decent. Yeah. And I think, if we had the Salcedo option at the moment for this game, I think he could start. I mean, we see day in, day out that the kid is ready for the big moments.
No, that's a good point. And I think every opportunity that Salcedo has been given, whether it's with Chivas, whether it's with the national team, he's just stepped up, almost as if he's completely unaware of like all the drama and everything that's behind, getting started for Chivas or starting for the national team. It's almost like he's completely oblivious to all these, and he just thinks he's out there just to play soccer and have a solid performance. It's pretty impressive what he's doing at his age. So we've been talking about the roster for almost about 20 minutes now, but really quickly, let's go over to the midfield. And I want same thing that I was asking guys earlier. So quickly, who do you think should if we're gonna have a three-man midfield, who do you think should start? If we're going to have a four-man midfield, who do you think should start? Maybe we're just tell me your thoughts in general about the midfield and what stands out to you, and I'll go over to Jason on that.
I think some of the options, like when let's say Guardado can't play and he's out, I think a lot will depend on who plays, obviously, on formation. But I mean, if they stick with the five-man back line, I could see. I think Gaito is a player who's one of the more guaranteed starters, along with Herrera. So I think you keep Gaito there, Herrera in front, and I could see Esquivel taking that final place. You could see Dueñas even in there in some kind of formation. Montes possibly. It could go a lot of ways. I think Aquino has a really good chance to start if they go to the 4-4-2 as well. So. We'll see what happens with the Dos Santos. It could be a surprise. I don't see, even if Jonah makes the list, it would be a little bit of a surprise for him to start, but it's certainly possible the way he played this summer and the way his talent level certainly merits a start, but I'm not sure exactly what's going on with his place in the national team. So we'll see. I could see, I don't know, as far as the list goes, like my one guy I think kind of missing out on the list would be Pena. I don't really see him making the team at this point right now, but it could go a lot of different ways depending on the formation.
Which is unfortunate for Pena because I think he's doing so well, but that midfield is stacked. It's by far the most stacked position.
Yeah, it's stacked, and one of the things this weekend, Villarreal had I think the most important game of the season so far, of a young season, against Atletico Madrid, and Jonathan got the start, so it kind of says a little bit about how important of a player he actually is for Marcelino Garcia Toral. And he did well. The 60-something minutes he was on the pitch, it wasn't this standout performance that, it's like, oh, he had a great passing game. It was just the way that he situated himself around the pitch, and being able to help Bruno in the defensive duties, and also helping the left back or the right back, I forget his name right now, I think it was Costa or someone like that. But he's really helpful to the other players, really all over the place kind of midfielder. And he's always correct with the pass, And I think against the U.S., when El Tri has the ball, they can't afford a mistake with the passing game, because once they give it away, these guys out the door, Yedlin, they're going to shoot and they're just going to run for the counter and have El Tri's defense a little bit mal-positioned. So you want a player on the pitch that is going to have the possession of the ball and is going to keep the ball always. And that's what Jonathan offers, and that's why I would like to see, in my mind, Gallito, Jonathan, and Herrera, players that can keep the possession of the ball and be good at the attack and the defensive help. Yeah. If it's a 5-3-2. Now, if it's a 4-4-2, it changes a lot, like Jason was saying. I think Aquino becomes actually an option because he's been doing pretty well coming from the left. You can put Guardado in the center, which is not something that is uncommon for him because he's done it in PSV. So I think Aquino does become an option with the 4-4-2.
Yeah, I think the only real loser of Guardado being healthy for the game is Jonathan Dos Santos. He's definitely a little unlucky. I think when he has had those, he's struggling to have playing time with Villarreal, but I don't think he's played badly. I just think there's just a lot of options right there in the midfield. I think when he has gotten a chance to play in the midfield, he's done pretty well. Personally, because it's something I like to do, is I just like to create formations all the time. I think would be kind of fun is a four-man midfield where we have Tecatito on the left, Guardado and Guy on the middle, and Jonathan Dos Santos on the right. Since he's played, he's pretty versatile in the midfield. And I would love to see that. I don't think we're going to see it. Like we've been talking about, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jonathan Dos Santos, arguably our second best player from the Gold Cup, sitting on the bench. And what I kind of like about Jonathan too is something that stands out to me, especially against the U.S., is that I don't know, he switches the playing field a lot. I just love the fact that he'll get the ball in from the right, immediately switch it to the left, and it's always accurate. Sometimes long passes, but it's just it's nice to see someone just like taking that opportunity and just changing the flow of the attack, and I love that, Jonathan. But who knows? Maybe he will play, maybe he won't, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because
Maybe he won't even get called up. That's the
maybe
thing
he
I don't
won't even
understand.
get called up. Yeah.
It's true.
Oh my God. Oh my
Maybe like Esquivel is gonna like take his place, but then you make the argument just like, oh, Esquivel, nobody wants it, but then half the time he shows up, he looks like the man of the match. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have plenty to talk about once the roster is announced on Thursday. All right, so let's. Any final thoughts about the roster before we go over to Champions League talk?
I think just quick on the forward position, because right now, Cesar, you mentioned Tecatito as a left midfielder in a 4-4-2. I actually have been thinking a lot about him being a forward, with Chicharito.
Yeah.
Tecatito and Chicharito up top. And the reason I say that is because I just think that he has this spark in him that can create plays out of nothing. And it's really probable that against the U.S., it is going to face this problem it has faced plenty of times. It has a possession of the ball, but nothing happens. It's just bland, nothing. It happened in San Antonio on the last friendly, which was actually in the first half. El Tri played well. The second half it played horrible, and that's where the U.S. took advantage and they scored the goals. But in the first half they had possession of the ball, but nothing was creative. And I think even if El Tri takes its best team available, it still has those problems. And I think right now Tecatito and Porto, basically the guy touches the ball and something happens, and something positive. For the most part, goals. And I think, that's what you need up top.
Jason, any last thoughts about the roster?
I just don't really. I still can't really understand where Torrado and Chulatito are on this roster. So I'm just waiting for them to kind of show up on some kind of injury replacement thing. So fingers crossed on that.
And I forgot who I was talking to the other day on Twitter. I was saying we should just have Bravo and Chuleta starting as our two strikers up top, right?
That's right.
Against the U.S. Boom!
Absolutely.
Like it's just it'll be fantastic. Torrado in the midfield.
Done.
We'll have Wiki in defense. Let's see, like who else?
The Picolin brothers.
There we go. Call the Blaster. There we go. Let's do this.
Oh man.
All right. Let's talk Champions League. So tomorrow we have Barcelona versus Bayer Leverkusen and Porto versus Chelsea. Both are pretty big, exciting games. I think all of this. Most of my Twitter feed has been filled. Like there's already just the talk about the USA fans saying Dos a cero, and then the Mexico fans saying like 5. And there's there's already a lot of stuff like justifiably being hyped up about the Mexico USA match. But we forget there's some massive Champions League matches, especially for Mexican players. Showing up tomorrow and also on Wednesday. So really quick, I'm gonna go back to Naib on this. Naib, quickly, what are your thoughts on Barcelona Bayer Leverkusen? Will Chicharito get the start? Will he score? Is it going to be like his Manchester United days? Like, what are your thoughts on?
It's an interesting match. I think after the Messi injury, that he will be out for about between 6 and 8 weeks. It's a new challenge for Barcelona. Of course, they still got Luis Suarez and Neymar, which are just spectacular forwards.
Yeah, they're all right.
But it's a new way for Barcelona, because I personally think that when Messi plays, it's 12 versus 11, because I think Messi counts as 2 players because he just does a lot of magic. And I think for Bayern, Leverkusen, it's a nice challenge in the sense that the coach, Roger Schmidt, he's a big admirer of FC Barcelona's football and, was a big admirer of Pep Guardiola. And now he's able to play against the team that, has originated this style of football that has dominated in the last 10 years. And it's a good moment, I think, for Bayern to visit Barcelona because, they just lost several days ago to Celta de Vigo over there in Galicia, and it was a surprising result. So it's not the Barcelona from the end of last season, when they were just demolishing every team and they demolished Juventus in the final of the Champions League. But now. They're still kind of still restructuring and kind of getting the hang of things again. So it's a good moment for Chicharito. And I think Chicharito will start, by the way. And I think, with these players that Mehdi, and all the others that Bayer Leverkusen has, it's a good opportunity to give a surprising result.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the whole Barcelona thing. I think they're still a dominant team, but they're no longer the immaculate, perfect team that they once were. That being said, they're still highly powerful and intimidating and a daunting team. Jason, thoughts on Chicharito tomorrow? Or if he doesn't score, should we freak out? Are we going to say that he's terrible? Go back to the bench, Chicharito. What are you doing? What are your thoughts tomorrow about Chicharito and Bayer Leverkusen in Barcelona?
Well, I mean, this is someone you count on to not shy away from the big game. I mean, big spot, playing in one of arguably the biggest stadium in the game, stepping in there, and you expect him to perform at his best. Whether he's going to hit all the shots he can hit, we'll see. But I mean, you also have to. I mean, there's a question of how many opportunities he's really going to get in this game. I mean, it could turn. I mean, for as much as Barcelona's not on their absolute best right now, things could turn really bad for Leverkusen in this game at the same time. So we'll see. We'll just hope for a good game from him. I expect he'll put in a good game. I mean, I think he has a way of stepping up in these kind of situations. So whether he gets a goal or not, it's really dependent upon how the team plays, I would say. But I don't expect a goal. I don't expect a great Leverkusen performance tomorrow. But hopefully we see something out of Chicharito.
All right, let's just give a random prediction. Do we think Chicharito is going to score tomorrow? Just don't think twice about it. Is Chicharito going to score? Naive.
Yes.
No.
Jason,
Yes.
no. I'm saying yes. There we go. 2 against 1. Chicharito.
You win, I guess.
We'll see tomorrow.
We'll send an email over. All right, so as exciting and big as that match is, the other big one, which I think you could even make an argument that this might be even a more exciting opportunity, for Mexico fans to watch is Porto versus Chelsea. There, you got Layun, who's doing very well. You got Tecatito, who, I mean, the storyline that you can take from this is, when he was with Monterrey in that FIFA Club World Cup in 2012, that team that he did very well against was Chelsea, and that's when the Tecatito name started to blow up a little bit. So do we think Tecatito is going to score another goal, maybe get an assist? What do we think about that? And also, thoughts about Herrera not making the roster for the match tomorrow. Naive, tell us just your thoughts on Porto right now.
Yeah, I think Porto, they got a tie in the last league game. They were leading 2-1, and then they got tied towards the end. And something similar happened in Kiev in the Champions League. They also, had a good result, and at the end ended up with a tie. It's a different Porto from last season. I think they're still trying to figure out the forward position a little bit. They lost Jackson Martinez, and then in the midfield they lost Oliver Torres. Both, actually, Oliver Torres and Jackson Martinez are now in Atlético de Madrid, and they were a big integral part of this Porto team last season. And the problem with Hector Herrera, in my opinion, is that he's not mixing well with the new midfielders that have come into the team. Imbula, Andre, and Neves. I think those have been able to mesh pretty well in the midfield in the first games. So that excludes Herrera from the mix. And, Andre scored the winner in the Clasico against Benfica, and that kind of even grew his fame amongst the crowd, And I think that's the main reason why he's not even in the call-up in this one. I think, he's still, Lopetegui likes Imbula, Andre, Neves trio in the 4-3-3. And we will see tomorrow if Tecatito does start, because in the first Champions League game he was on the bench, was left on the bench, but this time around I think Brahimi is he's not 100%, so he might have to start Tecatito, because without Brahimi, who is this good forward that moves well the ball around, you need Tecatito in there with Abubakar, who also has been scoring a lot of goals in the forward position. And I think Abubakar and Tecatito have actually connected pretty well with the few games they've played together. So we will see it. And then there's a lot of, Mourinho's coming back to Porto. Casillas is now living in Porto, So all this, craziness that it's the other part of football that we're also interested about, to see that, Mourinho talking to Casillas at Mourinho's place, basically. Oh, and by the way, Caixinha is going to be in the game. Caixinha's over there.
Maybe there's arguably the more the more exciting game to watch because both of them are going to be on, at least over here on the West Coast, they're going to be on at 11:45. I mean, that's typically when all the Champions League games start over here, 11:45, noonish. So maybe that's the one to watch if Chicharito, isn't getting much done. I mean, honestly, and I think most will be doing this now. I'll be having the double screen going on right here at my house. Like, I'm sure all of you guys will be doing that. But yeah, that might be the more interesting game to watch. Jason, your thoughts? And I think really quickly, just going over to another question that someone asked before the show. It's at EPINA09. Just what's happening with Hector Herrera? Quick thoughts on Herrera. Quick thoughts on Porto. Quick thoughts on why he's not on the roster. Just to build off of what Naib said.
I wonder if it's just kind of there's just a bit of a fatigue building in with Herrera, just in the amount of games that he's played, and just the very busy summer, and just going through that full season last year with all of the games last year, and then into this year. I wonder if he looked tired this summer. So is that continuing? Is he someone who just needs some rest and a bit of a break? I wonder if that's part of it. I think what Naib mentioned about the roster and the turnover was spot on with it as well. So I think there's some issues there. I think it'll solve. He just has too much quality where he's not going to find his way back in and getting time. So I'm not too concerned about it right now because it's early going and all these roster issues tend to work out. And I think he's someone who certainly has a place in the team. But it's definitely, like you guys mentioned, it's going to be a really exciting match. Definitely the one for this week I'm most looking forward to because I think it has the most potential to be just a lot of intrigue with certainly with all the Chelsea issues and the connections to Porto, and then also all of our Mexicans there in Porto as well. So it should be an interesting match.
Yeah, Chelsea, who, if I remember, they're struggling right now in EPL. They're, I believe,
very much so.
Yeah, they almost had. I believe if they would have lost, it was the last game, the game beforehand, they could have potentially been at last place in the EPL. So they're struggling. So maybe this is now the time for someone like Tecatito to step up, that risk taker that we have, make a name for himself, and then he's going to Man City, right? No. Quick thought about that. Like, what are you guys' thoughts? If Man City were to offer Tecatito a very, very large check with his name on it, do you think he should make the move over to Man City, Naib?
Well, it's tough, if we see the business that Man City has done with Porto in the last years, the Mangala, one of the center backs, moved from Porto over there. Also, Fernando, a midfielder, also moved from Porto, did the jump from Porto to Man City. So one of the big, quote-unquote buyers of Porto players is Man City.
Yeah.
So, if the trend continues, but because I think it's still young, but 3 goals in such a short period of time brings all this notorious, scope on him and all these rumors, but it's possible, to see Tecatito move on after this season. But then let's let him enjoy his time over there in Porto, because I think it's good for his growth as a footballer. He's only 22 years old. Yeah.
I think he's the second youngest player on the roster, if I remember correctly. He might be the youngest or 30. He's definitely on the Mexico roster, I want to say. But yeah, let's let him enjoy his time. Jason, if you were his agent, what would you say? Say, Tecatito, let's do it. Let's go over to England. It's fantastic. You're going to enjoy yourself. Or you're saying, let's hang out in Portugal a little bit. You still got to develop.
Yeah, you always take the money. If someone's going to write you a big check, you take that big check. You cash that big check. You go. Even if, I don't think he would play all the time in Man City, but, he goes there. Amazing roster, great experience. And then if it doesn't work out, he goes on back to a Porto or the like, then finds his way right back into the roster. It's not like he's going to be, if he did make that move to Man City, he would be there forever, not playing kind of stuck situation. I don't believe so. You take the money. If they're going to pay you a lot of money, yes, you do that. And then you find your way. And there's a lot of teams looking for those players who don't work out at those gargantuan clubs to fall into their laps for the right price. So even if he went to City and then bounced off to another team a year or two later, I think that wouldn't be terrible for him either. And he'd be rich.
Yeah. Oh, he most definitely would be rich with that money from Man City. Usually I ignore these kinds of rumors, but with Tecatito, it just feels a little bit different. Like, it's just the idea that Man City want him, or just honestly, just any major club are interested in him, doesn't surprise me too much because of the potential that he has. And, how young he is and how like I was saying, just his risk-taking abilities that he has. So let's look really quickly at Wednesday. We have Atletico Madrid versus Benfica. Raul Jimenez going up against his old team, and CSKA Moscow versus PSV. Hector Moreno definitely not going up against his old team, because that would be fascinating to see a Mexican national player going out there to Moscow. Naib, quick thoughts about Wednesday's Champions League games?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see. Raul Jimenez has been coming off the bench for Benfica, so it's probable that he will, be on the bench against his former club. But it'd be sweet, if he can get a goal against Atleti. But I think still Atleti is also in that I think a lot of clubs at this point of the season, they have this problem in trying to integrate their new players. And a couple of minutes ago we were talking about Jackson Martinez in his time in Porto, and now in Atletico, he's still trying to find himself in that club. And it looks like Cholo Simeone is trying to kind of integrate him, finding ways to integrate him correctly to the team. They got Antoine Griezmann, who's on fire, and they also have Angel Correa, an Argentinian youngster who I think did well in the Arlington game, but Moises was unstoppable, blocking everything. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Atleti, they got this defensive consistency because it's part of their DNA, but attacking wise, they're still struggling. So Benfica they could get a result over there, but it will be tough. Kind of similar to the Leverkusen Barcelona, but I'd say when you visit Spain and you get a tie out of Spain, I think that's a good result.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Jason, quick thoughts about the Wednesday's matches for the Champions League. Benfica and PSV. We got Jimenez and Moreno.
That's really exciting to see Jimenez back in there. You could see him, a player who definitely want to prove himself, not being able to get the time with Atletico, so hopefully he's in there and is able to get some action. As far as PSV in Moscow, not the most exciting match for me to really watch, but I did want to share.
On our list, isn't it? And of all four matches, you're like, well, maybe I'll catch a replay of that.
Yeah, maybe. I did want to share that the Moscow goalkeeper, Igor Akinfeev. I wanted to say his name just because I could sort of pronounce it. I don't have anything else to say about that, except I know the starting goalkeeper for Moscow, and that's how you pronounce his name.
That's very impressive. I cannot name a single player from CSKA Moscow. Actually, if someone were to ask me, like, so the Moscow team that PSV is going up against, I'd be like, yeah, like name the 4 letters that make up the first part of their team name. Would be like CSKW. I mean CSK. Like I should know these things, but I don't.
And one other thing, Pulido actually did make the trip to London because tomorrow Olympiacos plays Arsenal, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's gonna play or whatnot. It's impossible to think because of all the situation is going on. But he actually made the trip from Greece to England.
That's very, very strange. Because I assume the Olympiacos would be kind of worried about playing him for some sort of reasoning involving all the complications of his contract and the Tigres thing. But that's interesting. I had no clue that he made the trip. I mean, let's just be checking our phones the whole time.
Pulido's life is just unpredictable at this point. He can end up, starting playing baseball next week, and he'll be like, "Oh, it's Pulido's life." It's you never know what's going on.
Well, I guess just check your phones. He'll be posting everything about it on Instagram, and you'll see all the details of his trip over in England. Maybe he'll just be traveling around town while the team is playing. Maybe he made some sort of deal with a coach. I have no clue. All right, so switching gears really quick, let's talk about the big game from the weekend. I'm not talking about Tigres and Pumas, which I thought for a little bit might be more exciting than the Super Clasico. But the Super Clasico lived up to the hype. It was exciting. It was brilliant. It was fantastic. Let's talk about America and Chivas. I'm going to go over to Jason. I'm sure you're watching, Jason. Jason, tell us your thoughts on the significant, huge, massive, substantial win that Chivas got over America.
Wow.
It was massive to me. That's why. Let's keep going. I'm going to go to thesource.com and think of...
Seriously?
Yeah.
No, it was the first 43, 44 minutes were amazing. Like that. Yeah. The first half, like just back and forth. I think the game was amazing. I really appreciated the Chivas and the pressure they were putting on America, and America really they weren't handling it very well. I mean, the Chivas was really putting the pressure on them, and you could see that the uneasiness in the America back line really coming to the forefront for the first time in a while. And Chivas just were absolutely killing it out there, just going to every ball a little bit harder. They were really impressive on the field in every way. And then Salcido. Just
Yeah,
inexplicable, really. It was just that bad. I can't understand what was going through his head when he did that, and that changed the course of the entire game. Whereas the second half was just that Chivas defending, and they defended pretty well, and they held out despite the disallowed goal that probably should have stood. Chivas, they certainly played well enough to earn a win. Despite that call. But the second half kind of it turned into that one-sided affair, but she was still defending strong. So it was just an impressive performance all around. I don't personally for me, I don't think this is like something that is really troubling for America. Although looking forward at the midweek matches, I'm gonna like. Both teams have real interesting match. I'm looking at the rebound for both of them to see how they're going to come off of this game. I think is going to be the most interesting part going forward.
Mm-hmm. No, that's an excellent point. We'll see how they do. And like as we were talking before the show, I forgot, but we've got Liga MX week 11 tomorrow, so we'll see. Tomorrow and Wednesday, so we'll see how those teams do. In the following matches. But yeah, no, fantastic stuff from Chivas, and just clumsy stuff from Salcido. That was. I wasn't even. It just made him look foolish, to be honest. Almost like he was tripping over himself, and it was a poor decision, or maybe accident. I don't know what was going on through Salcido's mind at the moment. But Chivas still walked away with an impressive 2-1 result, and also impressive performance from Omar Bravo, and also Tonio on goal. Yeah, and then Tonio did fantastic. And Naib, what were your let's go over to you. What were your thoughts on Saturday's game? Which I definitely, like I said, I thought everybody. I mean, there was a lot of hype about it. I thought it was boring, but
the first half was impeccable. The back and forth situation with both teams. Chivas didn't stay and defend it the whole match. Like Chepo did. A couple of when Matosas and Chepo's match came over. I think it was the last one. And that whole defensive aspect. I think Chivas does attack a lot with Almeida. You can tell that's kind of his idea of his teams always attacking. I'm really impressed with Bravo. The leadership as being captain, and on top of being captain, scoring the goals. That's kind of the stuff we want to see out of the captain, and it's been really impressive seeing it. With America, I think I don't know how. We'll see how important Benedetto is for America now, because I think they did miss Benedetto in the Clasico. I do think that Quintero is not showing the class that he's supposed to show, considering the amount of money America paid for him. And I think Benedetto is a really important player for America. And I think we'll see that with against León. I think Benedetto should be back for that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, we'll see how they rebound. I still think, even after that loss, I think I think America are going to do very well. I still think they're easily one of the title contenders. But this gives a little bit of momentum for Chivas, and this gives them a little boost in the new era of Almeida, who got he had a lot of criticism, and like I mentioned in the last show, there all the fans chanting at Almeida's luxury box of the Estadio Omnilife. They were chanting Chepo, Chepo, Chepo. But are those fans still chanting Chepo's name? Are people even thinking about Chepo nowadays? So I think it was a massive win for Chivas, and yeah, we'll see. It'll be a big couple of days on Tuesday, Wednesday, and see if Chivas can continue working their way up. Let's go over to Liga MX in general. And as I was talking to you guys before the show, I think after all the goals, the high goal scoring games that we had in the past few weeks, I think outside of that game, the Querétaro game, maybe Pumas and Tigres, I was kind of let down this weekend. I was our last weekend. I was expecting a little bit more. I was on Saturday it was kind of boring, to be honest. But I mean, quickly looking at the Liga MX weekend, what stood out to you guys? What what would you want to bring up? Like, what was one of your talking points? Or go over to Jason with that. Like, what was one of your talking points from week 10 of Liga MX?
Well, there was just a lot I noticed in like throughout these games. It's just like one of those weekends where there was just a lot of those calls that were just
Yeah.
unfortunate. A lot of the refereeing decisions really stuck out to me in a lot of those games. The red cards all over the place, the penalties. There were a lot of questionable penalties, extremely questionable on Sunday afternoon. But a lot of them that just I don't know, could put a damper on some of those games. And it's just that recurring thing for me that I see in Liga MX all the time. It's just the red cards and the red cards and the red cards. There's just way too many just direct red cards in Liga MX that you wouldn't see in other leagues. I mean, the referees in Mexico are extremely quick to the red card. You see more yellow cards, I think, in other leagues, but the red cards just come out so quickly, and I think it's to the detriment of the sport. I mean, I think there is a tendency for some heinous fouling to take place in Mexico at times, like those studs up challenges that we see sometimes. But the frequency of them is too much, and I think that has affected a lot of games this week, and it's been affecting games all season long. So it's one thing that really stuck out to me this weekend. It's something I wish would just stop, because it ruins just the entertainment value of the game for me when the red card comes out, because the game completely changes and it becomes that one-sided affair, like we saw in that Chivas America game, and it kind of destroys the entertainment product. So it's just something I want to see a lot less of.
Interesting. So, speaking of which, one of my favorite stories from the weekend was the defender from Dorados, La Cerda. He got a red card. It was 3 games ago for Dorados. So he missed out on the next game, which I believe was against Pachuca. And on the first game he came back, which was last weekend, he got another red. So, to be honest, I didn't get a chance to see either of the reds, but I couldn't help but laugh out loud when I found out that defender from Dorados, that he got the red, missed out the game, and immediately the first game he came back, got another red. He's going to miss another one. I'm just hoping after suspension, that he's going to get another red this weekend after missing out on the games on this Tuesday and Wednesday. Naive, we'll go over to you. Quick thoughts on the weekend. What stood out to you?
Yeah, just the follow-up, Cesar, with Dorados. They're switching coach. I mean, they already booted Carlos Bustos, and
That's
now interim manager is Omar Briseño. It's interesting to see the new teams that are coming up from Ascenso MX to Liga MX, because the last one that came up, Leones Negros, immediately went back to Ascenso MX, and they kept the same coach for the 2 seasons, and now Dorados enters, and right away in the 10th week they fire the coach. So I mean, we'll see who they bring in, of course, but it's not looking positive over there in Culiacan. And I think what stood out at Pumas, their home, another home win, and no goals conceded in Seúl. I think you have that stat, right, Cesar? I think how many games are they already?
It was 5 games and 14 goals and none allowed. Not one single goal allowed.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're dominated at home, and I think having that domination at home is really important and crucial in liguillas. I think if Pumas is able to keep among the top 4 going into the liguilla, it will be a tough place to play at, definitely.
Yeah, I think that what was pretty impressive about the performance is, I think what I've liked most about Pumas is their attack. I've liked Sosa, I've liked Fidel Martinez, and even Lalo Herrera, which kind of he was kind of off in the first few weeks, but he's definitely starting to do well. But against Tigres, I think their defense was fantastic, and I think Dario Verón, I think he was the man of the match for me. I thought he was fantastic, even though Sosa got the game-winning goal. I thought it was amazing, and it's just ridiculous to see the form that the team is in at home. And they're most definitely you can't ignore the fact that they're title contenders now, and especially when you see someone like, let's talk really quick about León, who have been struggling the past few weeks. They lost to Querétaro, Tito Villa, but then again it's against Tito Villa, who just when he feels like scoring, he'll score like 18 goals in one weekend. But León, they've struggled. I mean, I wish Wisa was here so we can talk about this a little bit more. But they lost to Querétaro, and then they lost to Chiapas 2 weeks ago. They lost 6-2. What are guys' thoughts on León? Just really quickly, while we're winding down the show, we'll go over to Nave. Thoughts on León? Aren't they? they were at first place. They're doing so well, but they lost to Chiapas 6-2. They allowed 3 against Querétaro. What's happening with them?
I think that it's something that has to do with, of course, there's some defensive problem there, or a way that the teams have already kind of understood how to attack León. Because I think León is really, and it's something that has happened ever since Matosas was there. When León attacks, they basically go with 7 people up there and they all attack. You see Gullit, who's technically a defensive midfielder, being like another center forward alongside Boselli. And it's all this all-out attack kind of sense that these players have ingrained in themselves, because I think PC does want to bring some order, but these players are so, attack, that, when it comes to defensive duties, they're really poor. And I think Nacho Gonzalez was one of the few players that has been, since coming up from second division to first division, he's struggling a lot, clearly. And Querétaro, with these players that are so fast, like Pájaro Benítez and then William da Silva, they just crushed them. And that's the same thing with Chiapas, with, what's his name, was this Colombian, Hurtado, Áviles Hurtado with the speed, and we'll see how America manages. They're kind of a different team at home as well, but away from home they're just easily to demolish, kind of.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about León. I mean, if you look at the stats, it's interesting. León, they're number 2 in the league when it comes to goals scored. They're also number 2 in the league when it comes to goals allowed, which is so much about them. And like as you mentioned, it seems like they go up with like 7, 8, or 9 attackers. Jason, really quickly, just let's talk about Cruz Azul for a bit, man. What were your thoughts on the closer? As I mentioned, I was a little let down. I was looking at all of the Week 10 games, and then I saw that we were ending with Puebla and Cruz Azul. I was a little bummed out by that. Ended up having more goals than a few of the other matches on Saturday. But you're struggling out there with Bermudez out there, Hobbit Bermudez, quick toss to Cruz Azul, and it looks like, I'm saying like 40,000 things right now, but it looks like, rumors are that Bueno's the next one out for Cruz Azul. So thoughts on them in general?
Well, the team's just not very good. I mean, that's just the break it down. Like the team is just aged and not very cohesive. I mean, they're just. That first 45 minutes this weekend against Puebla looked like a match-fixing kind of like example of a team out there just kind of wandering around and not really trying, or just having no idea how to play together. It was frightening to watch that first half. Cruz Azul, in fairness, came out in that second half and really pushed and played pretty well. They're just not very good they can't really score goals unless it comes like they got the goal by way of the free kick. I mean, like they score by way of penalties. Like this is the only way they could score at this point. They're just not a very talented team. They have no real scoring threat. They're old in defense and you get beat very simply sometimes. Like the first goal that Puebla scored was just embarrassing. The defense was just looking around confused. Bueno being out is going to be very good for Cruz Azul because they were clearly not starting their best 11. It's hard to understand some of the decisions he's making with that roster at this point. So I'm excited new managers coming in. I'm kind of doubtful that it's going to be something that's really going to change the team altogether, because I think what Cruz Azul needs more than else is like a consistent youth infusion kind of a thing going on, which is not going to happen unless massive changes are made. So, I mean, the team could be better than it's playing right now, but it's still not a very good team. This isn't like a title contending kind of quality roster at this point. It's an aged roster that has a lot of problems.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I made a joke on Twitter, but it looked like Chaco was just like the angriest dad during the second half of that game. Just like an angry, disappointed dad out there on the pitch. But going back to you really quickly, Jason, like, who do you think will be coming in? We talked about Tomas Boy possibly coming in. Who do you think's gonna replace Bueno?
I mean, it's probably gonna be Tomas Boy, just because like he's my personal nemesis, and that would just be about right. I can't really speak clearly, and like I don't know. He leaves me completely without words. Tomas Boy, not a big fan of his, and that's probably who I expect to come in at Cruz Azul at this point, because that's just where I'm at with this team.
Yeah.
But hopefully anyone else is named manager very soon, but we'll see.
And maybe it'll be Bielsa. Maybe Bielsa, he wasn't interested in the city, but he
Klopp,
wanted
maybe.
Cruz Azul. Yeah, Klopp perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so quickly running down through the rest of the scores. So we had Querétaro beating León 3-0. We had Xolos tying Chiapas 1-1. América obviously losing to Chivas 1-2. Monterrey tying Morelia 2-2. Monterrey's still struggling. They got the new
New
stadium, but
stadium.
they're only pulling off really draws against really sad poor teams out there. So we got Pachuca tying Santos 0-0. Both result that neither of those teams want. We have Atlas losing to Veracruz 1-0. Veracruz defense doing very well in that match. Toluca beating Dorados 2-1. Pumas beating Tigres 1-0, and Puebla beating Cruz Azul 2-1. Any final thoughts on the weekend's games for Liga MX? Naib?
Yeah, I think it was just a low scoring kind of week with the games, and it's atypical because as we have suggested earlier in the show, I mean it's been an exciting one with a lot of goals, and this one was not the most exciting of weekends, with the exception of the Clasico, which I think for the first 45 minutes it was great.
Oh, yeah. That was definitely very, very exciting. Jason, any final thoughts about Week 10?
No, I think you mentioned it in passing there, but that Pachuca Santos, just terrible for both of those teams. Really, just two teams desperately needing a win, and of course neither of them gets it. Yeah. So pretty disappointing.
Although maybe Santos could be happy with that result because they're not doing very well right now. So that point away means a lot to them, especially since I think they're the only team left in the league who have yet to win a game at home, which is just difficult, especially considering that they're right now they currently have the title. So
that championship hangover has hit them hard.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. All right, so just to wrap up the show, let's look over to tomorrow's games and Wednesday's game as well. So, and luckily, most of the matches will be happening on Tuesday, and I'll be working on Wednesday, but I'll have plenty of free time to watch games on Tuesday. And it looks like that we have a lot of good matchups tomorrow. Naib, what are your thoughts on some of these games? What stands out to you? What should we be watching tomorrow?
No, definitely the León América is a good one to watch. Then you have the Chivas Rayados, Toluca Xolos, I think as well. It's another one to watch. Those games that are going to be Tuesday are the exciting ones. Then on Wednesday you have the Cruz Azul Atlas. I think Atlas is struggling. No, the thing with the Cruz Azul Atlas is because, for example, Atlas, we thought it was going to be a good team with Matosas. Yeah. And it's not being, that's not the case, I think that team is struggling at the moment. And Cruz Azul with the coaching changes, if the coaching change did well to Chivas, why not think that the coaching change might do well for Cruz Azul?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Jason,
some optimism, just some optimism.
some much needed optimism.
Not bringing that over here. No.
Over in Cruz Azul's little section of Mexico City. Jason, looking at tomorrow's games and Wednesday's game, what stands out to you? What should we be watching?
Well, a lot of them that now you mentioned as well. Just that, like I mentioned earlier too, I'm really interested to see America rebounding from the loss, going to León, how they react to that, and then Chivas, how they respond to the success, and hosting Monterrey, a team that desperately needs to start getting some wins. So that two really interesting matchups there. Yeah. And also that Toluca Tijuana match, I think it could be a really good one in Toluca. Going back a bunch of years, a title match that I actually attended when there was that title match, a really interesting one. So it makes me think of that. And it seems like two teams that always kind of have interesting games when they match up with each other. So that's one to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, when you're at that match, what stood out to you? What's the first thing that kind of comes to mind about that match?
The thing I remember most about being there is the Cise Puede that took over the stadium in Toluca. That was just. It was one of those. It was the entire stadium, and this was after Xolos kind of took the lead and the dominance in that second leg in Toluca, and the Cise Puede takes over, but there's that tinge of just sadness in it because it's a lie, and we know it's a lie because Toluca was not turning it around, and that's the thing that I'll always remember is just that those sad cheering toward the end, and it was just kind of I don't know. It was nice and pitiful at the same time.
Jason remembers a bittersweet moment at the end of that match.
I always bring the happy times, you know.
But yeah, no, like quick. Let's see. I'm looking at the matches right now. I think arguably all the first four matches are. I guess technically there's you could say that they're all because three of them are playing at the same time at like because we have the Toluca, León, and Chivas at the same time, and Chiapas, Santos, Veracruz. But I would say Toluca, Xolos is good, León, América, Chivas, Monterrey, and I think Chiapas, Querétaro. I think that's a one to watch as well. I think that's a battle between those fringe teams who are gonna one of those teams either you know it like Chiapas or Querétaro. They're gonna show up in the playoffs like at the 8th spot or the 7th spot. They're gonna sneak in there somehow, and they're going to somehow make it to the semis and lose in the semis. But I think you got to watch out for those two teams who have a potential to make a late season push for the playoffs. But yeah, I think tomorrow it'll be good.
I'd say Santos Dorados probably a safe one to skip.
Yeah, yeah.
Just let that one go by.
If Santos can't win tomorrow, I don't know, man.
It's probably going to be a 0-0. It really.
Yeah. Oh,
no.
Well, Tom said that Paco Ayesteran likes those 0-0s a lot. You know, when we were talking about Paco Ayesteran and his arrival to Santos.
Even at home. Money's not 0-0 on that
one. All right, well, we're at about an hour and 7 minutes. We talked about three. We talked about the Champions League. We talked about the Super Clasico. We talked about the Liga MX, what to look forward to. Any final thoughts? Any last things before we wrap up the show? Jason, any last things?
Please, no Thomas Boy. That's all I'm thinking about now. So, thanks for that.
All right. Well, we'll have some prayers for No Thomas Boy tonight.
Thank you.
Nate, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think this week we'll see what happens with this whole deal that's going on with Juan Carlos Osorio, Sao Paulo, El Tri. The reports are that there's going to be a meeting this on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. That's what the Brazilian media is saying. It's all strange at the moment. It's like Osorio wants to kind of say that there's nothing going on, but it kind of looks like there is something actually going on. So I mean, you can't cover this whole deal. It's impossible at the moment. We're almost in October, and there's this idea from Guillermo Cantú and Santiago Baños to have the coach by the October 10th game, the new one. Of course, Tuca is going to be the coach in the Rose Bowl game, but it'll be nice to already know who's going to take over after that match. But we'll see. I think Juan Carlos Osorio, keep that name in mind.
Yeah, keep that in mind. He said he wants to go to the World Cup. He's been denying that he's going to be leaving Sao Paulo, but at the same time, there are reports coming out that he's talking to the national team. Even seen some reports saying that he's going to probably make a decision by Wednesday. I don't know. It was just a random report I read online. Who knows if there's any truth to it? But yeah, keep an eye on that. Maybe by next Monday, we won't be talking about who's going to be starting for Mexico against the United States. We're just going to be talking. We're one of those shows. We're talking about 30 minutes about why it's Osorio, not Bielsa. But that's for the next time. All right. So thanks to Jason. Thanks to Naib. Don't forget to subscribe to our show. You just look a little bit down, a little bit to the left. You see that subscribe button. Just click it right there. Follow us at Mex Soccer Show on Twitter. Follow the Mexican Soccer Show on Facebook. Maybe we should get an Instagram too. We'll just all share the password and we'll just take selfies every day, just what we're doing.
Great idea.
Even take them during the show. I think that'd be a pretty good idea. Maybe get a Snapchat as well. But but thanks to all you guys. Thanks to all the listeners. Keep an eye on Thursday. Keep an eye on the next couple. It's going to be, as Naib said earlier, it's going to be a fascinating few weeks for Mexico. And let's hope for the best. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.